Tiny House Prepper.
Live simple, live free.
Hey everybody, I'm Bill,
And I'm Elizabeth with Tiny House Prepper.
and we have been here in Branson for almost a week
Yep.
and just thoroughly enjoying it.
It's a really neat place.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that it takes a lot more than a week. Well, it hasn't actually been a week. We got here Monday and we're leaving Friday morning, so we've only actually had 3 days here, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday. But it's going to take a lot more than that to see everything.
But it's been so much fun.
So I can definitely see that we're going to be back at some time in the future.
Yep.
On our way to Arizona or something.
Okay. Sure.
So anyway.
Kat and I are just along for the ride.
Yeah, so anyway, now it's time for us to be off. So we are still heading west. My sister moved to Oklahoma a few years ago. So we are going to go and see her. We're very excited about that because we haven't actually been there to see her since she went. So we're going to be able to see where she lives and all those kind of good things and see her whole family and her boys. And
Yeah, they came to visit us last year, but we're going to be really glad to get down, see what her new home is like.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we're very excited about that. So we're off again. Well, here we are, finally in Oklahoma. We are visiting my sister and her family. You may have remembered from last summer they came to visit us.
Yep.
And this is my sister Bonnie and Rich. And they have 5 boys.
5 boys.
And these are the 2 youngest.
2 youngest,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
correct.
So we're looking forward to a good weekend here with them.
A couple of darling dogs and 2 beautiful big cats.
We're also going to be going to their church, and we got a good school concerts for both of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's coming
excited.
up, so we're excited about that. So we'll take you along with that. And so anyway,
We're seeing their stomping grounds while we're here.
yeah, we haven't
Kind of
actually,
their life.
since
Yeah.
they moved out here to Oklahoma, we haven't actually seen where they live. So it's very cool to see everything. So
Been great.
And I knew these guys when they were wee bitty, and they're all big and strong and tall now.
Good boys.
Handsome.
all right, so here we are, Oklahoma.
Yay!
So when we drove into my sister's house, it had been raining and it had just stopped, but everything was still wet. I walked past this tire and I heard a bubbling sound. It's a hissing, bubbling sound from the water. I may not have heard it if it hadn't been wet. I got a nail right here.
Oh, goodness.
So I am very happy that it happened here
Yes.
in a very friendly driveway. We're going to be here for a couple days, and I'll be able to get the this one patched, and instead of having it happen out on the road someplace, it's so much better.
Well, we have roadside service, but it still would have taken time, and we're just glad to be here.
I don't generally call roadside service unless I can't get the tire off. I'm a man, I can do this myself. But with these big heavy duty tires, sometimes it's hard to get them off. We went to church with Bonnie on Sunday, and it was absolutely amazing. I'm not sure exactly how to describe it.
Yeah.
It was a fairly large church,
Mm-hmm.
and come to find out, it is what was considered a satellite church of a much larger organization.
Yeah.
And come to find out, Bonnie said they have 33 churches in 10 states. And the way it works is the main pastor, and I never even got his name, or I heard it and I don't remember it, but he does the sermon, and then they broadcast it to all these churches all over the country on a huge screen up front, where it's kind of like if you're at a big event at a big stadium where the speaker's so small you can't see him, so they put a big screen up in the back. That's kind of what it feels like, but he's not actually physically there. I don't even know where their main location is.
Yeah. It was an excellent
Yeah.
excellent sermon. He's very down to earth, really likable.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the sermon. We really enjoyed the pastor. But the way it works is they have these satellite churches all over the place, and each satellite church has its own local pastor as well. Very well organized with, all kinds of kids programs locally and all that kind of stuff. But the main sermon comes from the main pastor. So all of the churches are considered one church organization. They're all going through the same thing at the same time and all of that.
Yeah.
And the church that we went to was not a small church. In fact, they had, I think she said 6 or 5 services that day, because they couldn't fit everybody in. So it was a big mega church just in itself, and it was one of 33 other churches across the country.
Yeah. The stuff they had for the kids was awesome.
Yeah, it really was.
Great stuff for the kids.
Yeah. And the church is called Life Church, and you can also find it online at life.church. And you can watch the sermons online as well. Just a very, very totally different thing. For us, old fogies, we weren't really sure what to think of it when we first got there, but we were both really impressed.
Yeah, the worship was wonderful.
Yeah.
They do have a local pastor who is a real sweetheart, and they have different ways that people can become involved and help with ministry.
Right.
And it's just kind of under this umbrella organization, and it was neat.
Also, within each satellite church, they have a whole bunch of home groups, within each church. And so anyway, it was really popular with the younger, generation that grew up in that environment.
Yeah.
But we really enjoyed it. And if you want to check them out on life.church, go ahead and do that. Anything else you can think about that you want to?
No, I don't think so. It was really enjoyable. It was
So
great.
here is a couple of clips, short little clips of the worship, and this was the local worship band. This wasn't on the screen. This was the local band that was there in the church.
Yeah, the only thing that came out on the screen was just the sermon.
Was the sermon.
Yeah.
Everything else was local.
Yeah.
So whole new concept in church for us, but we were impressed. And apparently the church is just exploding in growth and hundreds of conversions every week and all that kind of stuff all across the country. So most of them are like in Texas, Oklahoma, and the southern Midwest there, and then they have one in Florida. They have one in New York. I think it's kind of near Albany. But if you go on their website and look at where it says locations, it lists all the different satellite churches if you want to check it out. So here's some of the worship from Life Church. Okay, I want to take just a couple minutes here and tell you a little bit about some of our heritage that is really amazing.
Very proud of it.
Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about this piece back here, which was a handmade and carved, beautiful piece. We'll tell you about that in a minute, okay? But you all know my father, Pop, his parents, or his grandparents, is
mom's dad.
our great grandfather, Ole Schlager, and he made this.
And this is actually, there were 7 of these made in the world, 7. So given out to various family,
But our grandmother, my father's mother, grew up in Holland until she was 17, and
Came here in 1923.
Right, the family, it was actually the Ole Schlagers, and the family was fairly wealthy, and they owned a Hotel Cosmopolite.
The Cosmopolite, yes.
Was it in Belgium?
In Belgium.
In Belgium.
Yep.
So we don't spend much time together, so I'm not used to saying our grandparents. Our grandmother and her family, like I said, they were fairly wealthy and they owned a hotel in Belgium called the Cosmopolite. And during World War I, it was confiscated by the Germans, and they ended up fleeing to Holland. And then, to make a long story short, a few years later, in 1923, they ended up coming to the United States.
And somewhere we actually have a stack of letters that they wrote back and forth to each other because he came first looking for work. And he said, don't come yet. And she said, no, I'm coming. And she packed up the kids and came anyway.
So this was Jacobus Olyslager, our great-grandfather, and his wife, Maria, what is it?
Isolde van Lelyveld.
Maria Isolde van Lelyveld. Van Lelyveld means field of lilies, and she was actually some sort of
Nobility.
minor nobility,
Yeah.
I think.
The Van makes it
Yeah,
nobility.
and she was used to having servants and all that kind of stuff, taking care of their family. All of a sudden, they lost everything, and they came to America basically almost in poverty. And she had a real adjustment there.
It'll work.
Yeah.
Like the rest of
Yeah.
us.
So anyway, once they got here, they ended up, I don't know the whole story, but they ended up eventually settling in Rochester, New York. And Grandpa Olyslager started carving and doing these beautiful things, and we'll show you some other things that he did as well. He died in 1965. Now I remember him. I was 7 when he died. You weren't born yet.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So I remember making a trip to Rochester in an old Volkswagen bus in the middle of the winter, and it was about 10 degrees in the back and it was freezing cold. So I remember all of that. But anyway, some of the work that he has done is just absolutely amazing, and we have some of it, of course, dispersed among the family. But so you want to talk a little bit about some of his things?
Can I interject one
We
thing?
can go ahead and mention the fact that when he died, I mean, they went in and the house was covered. Every wall in the house was. He would do these amazing carvings. We'll show you some of those. This is a little bit of it. But this is a piece of furniture. He actually did carvings.
He did wall hanging like pictures.
Yeah, that would go
we'll
on
show
the
you a bunch of
wall.
those.
And his house was covered
Absolutely.
with them, every inch. And even the tables would get carved up, and it was just his passion.
You couldn't see an inch of wall anywhere. Every little spot had something that he had carved that he put in there.
Right.
And some of them he painted after he carved them, some of them he didn't. But anyway, so you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So here it is, and you'll notice that most of it is scenes from when he was in Holland, and he missed it terribly. You'll see it's all about the boats and the water, and scenes from Holland. And what's great about this piece, if we can just back up and we'll just get a wider shot here. This was a secretary, so you could put this down and you could stand here and you could write letters. And so that is one aspect of it. And then of course up there you can put your china to show it off. Now this right here is a plane, and it was used in some of the initial rough work to help to smooth it out. But this was actually owned by him as well. So we leave that here with it, and let me just snug that right in there. And another thing to show off is if you open this up, you can see inside. This is just amazing. This is an oil painting that he did, and this is showing 2 Dutch women looking out to sea, and in the background you can see the boats. And this is supposed to be women that are looking out, waiting for their husbands to return, because so much of their culture had to do with the sea and sailors and waiting for the men to return from sea. And you can see that this is just very old, and we just love it. I think it's fascinating.
These are all just scenes from Old Holland that he missed so much when he came to America. Now this is our grandparents, August and Jean Keller. They are my father's parents.
Grandma Jean was the one who came over from Holland when she was 17. They were married just before the Great Depression of 29, and this picture was taken sometime probably in the late 20s. And these are Grandma Jean's parents. This is Jacobus and Maria Olischlager. And based on their apparent age in this picture, this was probably taken sometime in the maybe late 40s. And this is a picture of Grandpa Olischlager actually doing some of his carving. This is a photograph of a picture that was in a newspaper, and the article, big article about his life. And this newspaper article, we don't have the actual date, but it was probably somewhere also in the 40s. And notice that he's using a hammer and chisel. He used all hand tools, hammer, chisel, several different shapes and sizes of planes. Everything that he did by hand. It was really amazing.
Okay, so here we have a few of the works. There's many of them, but here's just a few. And I'll start here with this oil painting. You can see here it's Jacobus Olischlager, 1913 is the date that's written there. And so it's already over 100 years old. And Edith Cavell, this was based on her. She was a nurse that worked in this tower back here as a nurse for the Red Cross during World War I. And she worked on a lot of German soldiers, but she personally hid many English soldiers in her room, in her house, to protect them and try to get them, you know, to where they could be safe. She was actually caught and shot in 1915.
Yeah.
But you see that this is a marketplace, and this is his memories, and this is from Holland, scenes from Holland. And so we still have that to this day. And these are just some of the other carvings and paintings that he did. He didn't just stick to one thing. He enjoyed experimenting. And some of the carvings are painted, as we see in this one down here. Once again, you have the theme of two women comforting each other with the waterways in the background.
This is actually carved pretty deeply, and then he painted on top of it, which is interesting.
And I love the outline of this, that he just built right into the piece of wood. And then he was also a religious man. Here we have the Lord's Supper, and you know, he did a few of these. Some of my other relatives have other ones that are similar of him doing the Lord's Supper, and you can just see how beautiful the relief work is here. It's all very detailed and you know, fairly deep.
So isn't this amazing? I mean, really. But you know, he had so many hundreds of pieces, and we only have a few of them because they were dispersed among the family and all the grandchildren and everything. And Bonnie just told me, and I didn't realize this, that many of them have actually disappeared in like yard sales and stuff.
Yard sales. So many of them, they just ended up getting rid of them in yard sales, and people don't even realize, you know, how much they might mean to us, you know,
Right,
and
right.
how, you know, valuable they could possibly be.
So-
And
So that's kind of heartbreaking for us to lose a lot of our heritage because family didn't value them as much as we do, I guess.
right.
So,
And just another fact is that he went very blind towards the end of his life, and he continued to work. And that's what's amazing, is so many of the carvings that he's done, he just used his fingers, and even though he couldn't see, he just continued to make some absolutely beautiful carvings. It was his passion. He just loved it. He loved creating with wood so much.
right, yeah.
you
So
know.
that was our great-grandfather, Jacobus Olischlager. Absolutely. Oh, by the way, Olischlager is Dutch for oil. It means oil slinger. Did you know this? What it means?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I've heard
Oil
it.
slinger. When they would make sails in the old days for sailing ships, they would sling oil onto the sails to waterproof them so they wouldn't get saturated with water and get really heavy during a rainstorm. So Olischlager means oil slinger because putting the oil into the sail. I thought that was interesting.
And he worked with his hands his whole life. He was a carpenter in Holland, and he came over here, and he made cabinets and continued to do a lot of woodworking while he
Right,
was here.
right.
Oh, and also he came through Ellis Island when
Right.
they came over. They came through Ellis Island, so that's kind of neat.
So anyway, there's a little bit of our heritage. I hope you've
There you
enjoyed
go.
hearing about it.
It's gone. And as we talked about last week, that is at least it was a round stone, probably at least a ton, and generally they fit into sort of a trough. And they would have them pushed out of the way, and then they would roll down and just clunk right in front. It was a very difficult stone to move.
The weekend that we were there, Bonnie's two youngest boys, the two that were sitting on the couch with him at the beginning of this video, had band concerts that we were privileged to be able to go to. And this is the youngest one here on the left, and they started out the entire junior high band concert with this trio. And I'm very proud of them. All three of these kids did an excellent job. And then our next oldest nephew is here playing in his high school jazz band. He's playing saxophone. He's in the front row, kind of on the left with the tan pants and the blue shirt. You know, this is where it all begins for musicians. It just seems like so many times if there's any kind of a budget crunch in a school, the music program is always the first program to be cut, and that's such a shame because for me it started in 5th grade and I played through school, and it ended up taking me into a 24-year career as a musician in the Army band. It was my whole life. And now I see these two boys playing, and I am just so proud of them. I have no idea what's going to be in their future as far as their music. I just know that they're having a lot of fun being a part of this. They're learning a great skill, and I am so proud of them.
absolutely fabulous time here in Oklahoma with my sister and her family. We've been here for a weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Very proud of the boys and the music, and boy, they're getting tall and handsome, and it was really great getting to hear them play.
Right.
Yeah, really proud of them.
So now it's time to head off again, and we're about as far west as we are going, and we're going to start heading back east again, back home again.
Back that direction.
So, yeah. So our next big planned stop is
The Ark Encounter.
Yeah.
I've wanted to see that for so long. I'm very excited.
a few years ago. We saw the Creation Science Museum. Actually, I think it was the first summer they opened.
Yeah.
And we haven't really been back to that area since. And now they have the Ark Encounter, and we're very excited about seeing that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a few days away because we're going to stick to our travel plans of only a few hours a day. So it'll take us a few days to get there, but we're very excited about that.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of our family and our heritage
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
all of that.
Yeah.
And stick with us for the next video. Don't forget to please like this video if you've liked it, and help us a lot. And subscribe so you can see the rest of the travel videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Live simple.
Live free.
We love you guys.
You be blessed.